It's Dylan's KC Barbecue at 4 Valley locations. Our sports bar in Arrowhead is packed with TVs for the ultimate sports fan. Our Wildlife World Zoo location will have you on the edge of your seat, dining right next to our 60,000-gallon shark tank. Dylan's Bayou at Pleasant Harbor has never-ending sunsets, beautiful people, and live music every weekend. And our newest location, Western Trails Ranch, is 12 acres of rodeo fun and live outdoor concerts for the entire family. It's Dylan's KC Barbecue, where we're elite, unique, and memorable.
This puppet show stays on because of you.
Welcome to the She's So Right show. We are two conservative women called by Christ to speak up for what's right.
Lindsey Graham, known nationally as the Patriot Barbie, is a proud author, public speaker, and brave political advocate for freedoms, rights, and conservative values.
Brandy Barkley is a powerful Christian leader and founder of Power Soul, certified Christian life coach and public speaker, forging God's battle cry to strengthen believers.
Guys, get ready to say it way more than you're used to. She's So Right starts now.
Freedom fighters, are you tired of giving your hard-earned money to big corporations who use their power against us? We are done. As conservatives, the best and most effective way to vote is with our dollars. You can shop with all our favorite companies, sponsors, and affiliates right on our website.
Go to www.shesorightshow.com and click the shop page. We are proud affiliates for MyPillow, My Patriot Supply, and other conservative brands. Get massive savings. Go to shesorightshow.com. Join us in supporting American companies.
Hey guys, welcome to the She's So Right show. You are here with Lindsey Graham and Brandy. You want to say your own name?
No, you can do it.
Brandy Barkley. And we have a special guest today, and we are going to get him on right away because if I read this whole bio, you would understand this guy has a lot of amazing, amazing things to talk about. We're bringing on Michael Deleon. He's a successfully acclimated ex-offender who, after nearly 20 years of drug addiction and 8 years of crime and gang involvement, spent 12 years in state prison and was released. He's earned 3 associate's degrees, a baccalaureate degree. The list goes on and on. Degrees,
That's a
degrees.
bachelor degree, not a baccalaureate degree.
No, I think it's a baccalaureate.
That's hilarious.
Well, okay.
See, I love when I get to rip on you because
I didn't go to college.
That's so good.
Actually,
the baccalaureate degree, you guys.
Hold on. When I read this bio, we're going to ask something. First of all, how mean is it that you just made me say on radio that I didn't go to college?
That's why she can't say bachelor. Okay, go ahead.
Michael is the founder of Steered Straight Incorporated. It's a nonprofit organization designed with the intention of carrying a prevention message to youth and young adults regarding the dangers of drug and alcohol use. He has spoken to over 12 million students and young adults as a motivational speaker, and he is the #1 booked school presenter in America, speaking at over 400 schools and facilities. He's also an award-winning filmmaker, directed and produced 4 documentaries on addiction. He has a memoir that will be released in this year. And he was awarded, ready, the 2020 President's Volunteer Service Award by President Trump for his ongoing volunteer efforts distributing drug education materials to youth and communities throughout the country.
Wow.
We are not worthy.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Hey, Michael.
Thanks for being here, Michael.
Oh, man, thanks so much for having me.
How do you have time for us? Can I just ask you? I don't even know how you have time to do this right now.
I'm at a conference. I'm actually in Arizona at the Arizona School Counselor Conference. Over 500 counselors of schools all over the state of Arizona. So, it's just a quick break to spend some time with 2 women who are always right. That's why you call it
So right.
Watch out.
I love it. I'm glad you picked up on that.
It's a perfect name for a radio show with 2 women because women are always right.
That's right. There'll be an apparel line for the men coming out soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll sell like hotcakes too.
Oh my God!
I'd wear it. Listen, women are smarter than men. I learned that a long time ago.
It really just needs to be an arrow pointing whichever way that says she's so right, and then you have to make your wife stand on that side, and everyone will just love it. Oh my gosh! Write that down.
No, it's been done. It's been done.
Oh. Well, Michael, tell us a little bit about. Gosh, I mean, we kind of know your background. What do you want to start with? You've got
what's hot on your mind right now? I'd love to hear kind of,
especially if you're here in Arizona.
Yeah.
At the border.
Yeah, well, Arizona is my focus because I'm scared to death. And, people that don't know my background, it takes a lot to scare me. I'm scared to death of what's happening. China importing fentanyl into our country. It's now the number one cause of death, 18 to 49. But it's the number one cause of death in Arizona, 19 years and younger, fentanyl poisoning. And so these kids are getting these pills through social media, Snapchat, TikTok. The cartels and their operatives have fanned across the country, and they're selling these pills to kids. Kids think they're getting a Wellbutrin or a Xanax or a Ritalin or an opioid, and they're not. They're getting a fentanyl tablet that was pressed in Mexico with Chinese raw materials. And this administration is doing zero about it, absolutely nothing. It's a massive crisis. In fact, there's legislation pending right now called Halt Fentanyl. Fentanyl, whether it's a pharmaceutical drug, opioid, or it's a synthetic drug from China, it is a Schedule I drug. In 10 days, if Congress doesn't act, it's not even going to be a drug. The fentanyl scheduling is going to expire in 10 days. Last May, Congress kicked it down the road. If in 10 days they don't act, fentanyl won't even be illegal in this country anymore.
Oh, my gosh. So
it's crazy. And these kids have no idea what they're getting. And then with marijuana legalization, that's not what happened. Marijuana got commercialized and industrialized, and people like George Soros, who is funding this across the country, and puppet organizations like Drug Policy Alliance are pushing the legalization of drugs, masked as decriminalization, safe injection sites opening in various cities across the country. The Justice Department announced yesterday that they are all for safe injection sites. It's crazy. And, I have a long history of addiction, 47 years total, addicted, incarcerated, and then fighting addiction. So this is my life and my purpose. And all I care about, number one, it's all serving God. But number one is getting to the kids, letting the kids know the truth about drugs and what's happening so they can stay away from it.
Right. The oxymoron of there being a safe injection place. Right? Let's make the most deadly thing in the world. Let's give it a safe place to be injected.
To be unhealthy.
Right.
Yeah.
A healthy place to be unhealthy.
And isn't it crazy that with everything going on, the Biden administration would be doing something like that?
Instead.
Yeah, they're all for it. In fact, before they named Rahul Gupta as the drug czar, there was an interim drug czar in this administration that was really pushing this administration to lower the consequences that people faced if they dealt fentanyl instead of increasing it. Fentanyl is not a drug, it's a poison. And China's importing it for one purpose and one purpose only, to kill our children, to implode this country. And then, like I said, marijuana is nothing like it was in the 60s, 70s, even the 90s. And marijuana use among adolescents is higher than it's ever been. We're in a crisis, and people are worried about masks and vaccines.
I was just going to say that,
But this is the real crisis. I mean, the number one cause of death in America, 27 years of age and younger, is drugs and alcohol. We're losing our babies, and that's Republicans and Democrats, and that's atheists and Christians. It doesn't matter, black, white, brown. We're losing a generation of kids, and it just boggles my mind. This administration is doing literally nothing about it, nothing at all.
It's crazy. And, then it's creating this homeless situation as well, and these government-dependent people, which ultimately I believe is their goal.
Right, to make us dependent.
Yeah.
Control and power over these people, that's what they want. We're not helping the homeless. The state of Oregon decriminalized all illicit drugs. So if you get caught with heroin and meth and cocaine and marijuana and fentanyl, it's not a criminal charge. You don't go to jail. And so they thought that was going to reduce the homeless and reduce the addicts. It just exploded it, because if you're a heroin addict in Iowa or Idaho or California or Washington State, why would you want to risk going to jail? Just move to Portland, and you can get caught with drugs, and then you're not even going to jail. You're not even going to get arrested.
Yep.
The idea was that they were going to increase treatment and get people treatment, but they did it. It was all a lie. All the money that was supposed to flow into Oregon to help people get treatment didn't come in. So they're sending less people to treatment with more of a problem. And so we're not helping. They don't want to help these people. They want to kill these people.
Did they get that bill passed through to, quote, legalize drugs? Did they get that through with the promise that funds would be dispersed?
Yes.
Yeah. So
100%.
now they're recanting, but the bill's already been
Yes,
passed.
the money's never come in. And now
Wow.
Washington State is going to do the same thing, and California is right behind them.
Yeah.
So it's madness. And then vaping is such a massive issue. The electronic delivery system delivering nicotine.
Yeah, explain that, because here I am. I'm a pretty, I think, educated person and all up in the business of all the things. But even when I see vaping, I don't really get it. What is it?
So vaping was the tobacco industry's way to hook the next generation of smokers. That's what it was. They sold it to America and told America that this was a way to help people quit smoking.
Right.
And that's the biggest lie ever. If you think quitting smoking is hard, wait till you try quitting vaping. And most people who go on a vape, most smokers who go on a vape, they vape and smoke because they're going to vape where they can't smoke. So their intake of nicotine has increased. But 70% of vaping products are purchased by kids. 20 years of age and younger. We're getting phone calls from schools to ask us to come talk to their third and fourth graders.
What?
Third and fourth graders on vaping.
Oh my gosh, where are they getting this stuff? Older siblings.
Parents, it's so easy.
And so are people just, I have to say, is there just an ignorance to that vaping is just as dangerous? What?
Yes. It's actually more dangerous than cigarettes.
Why?
People don't realize that. Because of metals, because of plastics, because of chemicals. So cigarettes is bad, number one cause of death in the world. But the problem is now you're putting chemicals, diacetyl, propylene glycol, vegetable glycerine, vitamin E acetate, and the flavors are all diacetyl. And nicotine salt. So the tobacco industry figured out a way to make nicotine more potent.
Unbelievable.
So it hits the brain in such a way. It's a psychostimulant on the adolescent brain. So the kids are actually like vaping Ritalin and Adderall. That's how serious nicotine salts are. And it primes the brain, the developing adolescent brain. It primes the brain for addiction. They know what this is doing, and they're doing it to target this population of kids. It's always been their strategic plan, target kids, and now they're doing it. But more than half of vaping by kids is now marijuana, THC, not even nicotine. So they're vaping marijuana. So they have a vape device with a cartridge that's pre-sold with manufactured THC in it, and the kids are vaping flavored marijuana. And the marijuana potency level is 70, 80, 90%. So now it's inducing psychosis and schizophrenia. It's crazy. And people are looking at me like, don't you think you're being a little bit over the top? Over the top. We just lost a 7th grader in Hartford, Connecticut that was dealing fentanyl at his middle school.
Yeah, is it possible to be overprotective of our kids? Is that possible?
Well, and when you think about what's the MO of the Chinese, they want to, again, this goes back to how do we make the next generation completely weak, useless, poor, and dependent?
All right,
it's heartbreaking.
When we get back, let's talk a little bit more about what the pandemic has done to drug numbers, especially in kids. The quote pandemic, I have to say that.
Yeah, the plandemic.
Yeah. All right, you're listening to the She's So Right show. We will be right back. Welcome back to the She's So Right show. We have special guest Mike Deleon here. He's talking about, the foundation of drug use in kids these days, how vape is making its way in sneakily, a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Oh my gosh, and how fentanyl is the number one cause of death for people under the age of 27, and no one is talking about it.
There's no ticker on the news about that.
No one is talking about it. It drives me crazy town. Michael, what's happening when can I just say, I know we're going to talk about the border and how that's affecting this, but, or the plandemic, that's where we were going, the plandemic. But can you tell me, are you encouraged when you're at these counselor conferences where you're talking to counselors around the nation in schools, about educating kids?
Yes, but they're overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed. The problems, the amount of kids that they had in front of them, the crisis, the sexual abuse, the pandemic exacerbated everything. You know, you cannot shut schools down, which is what we did. You cannot take kids out of their environment. The academic regression nationwide, especially for kids of color, which blows me away, because those are the populations that the liberals want you to believe they care about. They care nothing about those kids. We are seeing, you know, a school announced in Baltimore a 3% proficiency rate in a high school. 3%.
Oh my gosh!
That should
Holy
make
smokes.
national news. It barely lived through one news cycle.
Wow.
The sexual abuse problems, the self-harm is up. Suicide attempts resulting in an ER visit has increased 54% in the last 12 months for girls.
Oh my gosh.
54%. Where a suicide attempt lands a girl in an ER. It's through the roof. So the pandemic, locking down, quarantining, closing schools, exacerbated everything. So I'm enthused. I'm encouraged, because the counselors are seeking information and programming and content to hand kids, but they're overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed. We could double the amount of counselors in this country in schools, and we still wouldn't have enough. It's scary, and parents don't understand what's happening. They don't understand how bad it is. They really don't.
Yeah, because they're only having the propaganda, you know, on the so-called news of the crises in the world being, you know.
Well, that, and the parents were locked down too. They lost their jobs. They're being forced to take a vaccine. They've got their own distractions now away from their kids. How do I just provide for these kids? Get them into an unmasked school, let alone, okay, now how's my child handling this?
Right.
All part of the plan.
You know, we just lost a 13-year-old kid the other day. They went on Snapchat, met somebody at a Walgreens and got a pill, but it wasn't a pill, it was a fentanyl pill. And the mom was asking me, you know, I just don't understand. I didn't know my son was interested in drugs at all. And come to find out that he couldn't really get through the pandemic. He was climbing the walls, and the mom calls the pediatrician, and the pediatrician puts him on an antidepressant medication. Well, now he's back in school kind of functioning a little bit, and the pediatrician rethinks the prescribing of that antidepressant and rips the kid off of it. An antidepressant that the kid's dependent on now, and the pediatrician rips the kid, doesn't wean him down, doesn't withdraw or anything, doesn't consider anything. He just rips the kid off the antidepressant. So the kid has been on this antidepressant for 18 months, and so he goes out looking for his own antidepressant.
Wow.
And so he was finding it, but one day he met a guy, and it wasn't an antidepressant, it was fentanyl, and he died 13 years of age.
Oh my gosh.
And it's story after story all across this country, and it's not making the news. The mainstream news doesn't give a crap about it. They don't care.
They don't.
And we're losing a generation of kids. This is a massive crisis of epic.
This is the biggest crisis in this nation, no matter what else is going on.
I was in San Diego the other day, and I came back to Phoenix, and I was coming up, you know, through Yuma, and I said, you know, let me run down. I went to the border. I spent 4 hours. I interviewed, because I have 4 documentary films, and I have 4 more projects underway right now. But I'm doing a project on fentanyl, so I said, maybe I could find a Border Patrol agent to talk to. Not only did I talk to one, I talked to 14. They were calling them in. They were radioing their friends coming over to talk to me. I talked to Border Patrol agents they're dealing with backpacks of fentanyl on a daily basis. I said, I don't understand. I don't see this on the news, not even Fox, Newsmax, no one. Where's the coverage of the fentanyl tablets that are pouring into this country? We're getting it every day. Nobody cares. It's massive. So I'm rushing this thing so I can share the news, but I don't know that anybody's even going to listen to me.
Well, and if there's no consequences for it, I mean, what's going to stop them? There's no I mean, if you're found with a backpack of fentanyl, there should be heavy consequences, you know, so that it's what's happening.
Nothing. They're releasing them. I mean, the guys that they just arrested for dealing fentanyl to Michael Williams, the actor that died, they were released under the bail reform of New York. You know, if there's no consequences, there's no change. That's the same thing for addicts. We have to give consequences. You know, and prison. I spent 12 years in prison. Prison saved my life. Saved my life. So there has to be consequences. If there's no consequences, nothing's going to change. But to these cartels who are making billions of dollars trafficking human beings and billions of dollars trafficking poison into our country, it just boggles my mind. People argue with me about a wall or the border. I don't understand. Tell me why you wouldn't want a border wall. Immigration. This has nothing to do with immigration. And if you really cared about those people, you wouldn't put them in harm's way. They're dying left and right while the cartels are pressing fentanyl raw materials from China into pills, and they're shipping it into our country, and they're selling it to kids on TikTok and Snapchat. And you got 6th and 7th graders dying all across this country, and no one's alarmed about it. It's crazy.
This is very, very sad. Very sad.
Yeah, I'm sitting here speechless because I'm speechless that we're not talking about it, that parents aren't informed, that, you know, every kid 7 years old and up has an iPhone with TikTok on it, and people act like it's completely harmless, and it is so harmful.
You can buy drugs on TikTok now.
And Snapchat, and it's all China. I mean, no one's asking questions. Wait a minute. Why are we even at the Olympics? I love our athletes.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. You know what? You're absolutely right. And I have to wonder if Trump was in office, would that have happened?
Mm-mm.
Would that have happened? I don't think so. No. I don't think he would be okay with that at all.
We're gonna boycott China. We're not going to the China Olympics.
Not going to China.
This is us trying to sound like Trump. It's pretty terrible.
Yeah, we should be shutting trade down with China. They are importing fentanyl for one purpose and one purpose only. Brezhnev said many years ago, we're going to implode America without firing a single shot. That's exactly what China's doing.
You know what?
The war is on. Everyone's saying we're going to have a war. The war is on.
Yeah, it is.
It's a different kind of warfare. It's the biowarfare, the medical warfare, the mind warfare over the children.
Yep.
It is. Exactly.
In Oregon today,
there's a war over the minds of the babies.
In Oregon today, they organized a parent whole thing. It went Oregon wide. It started in Salem. Went Oregon wide. The moms showed up and they were going to ask, to the kids to be strong enough to just take the mask off and walk out. And she texted me and said it was so devastating. It's like they had no soul in their eyes. They were deceived. They are already indoctrinated. When they've got adults standing outside the school saying, take off the masks.
They won't do it.
They won't do it. They're too afraid to do it. And now these are the same minds that are being introduced, like you're saying, to drugs on TikTok and social media with distracted, broke, concerned parents. It's like the first shot was releasing the pandemic in. Then the second shot now is taking this drug fight to the kids. So we got to go to break. When we come back, there's so much more to talk about.
Oh my gosh, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, we'll cover some more.
Let's encourage.
Call to action.
Yeah, this call to action for you parents out there. Hey guys, welcome back to the She's So Right show. We have special guest today, Michael Deleon, who is on the front lines fighting the drug epidemic for our children. And off the air just now, he gave us a crazy, staggering statistic that 2/3 of fentanyl coming into the whole United States is coming through Arizona's open border. Michael, just talk about that when you're, the frustration and what we can do as parents. Because you know what happens in these shows or listening to the news, and why I stopped listening to even Fox is just, it's so depressing. I mean, and I feel like this is exactly what they want, is us to feel helpless and just go back to bed and not do anything. So what can we do as parents to help our kids?
Yeah, every prevention organization in the country has always had a gold standard, and that gold standard was eat dinner with your kids 5 nights a week. You have to eat dinner with your kids 5 nights a week. Well, in 2019, even before COVID, 2022, can families really eat dinner? Obviously, it was happening when we were locked down, but could families really eat dinner with their kids 5 nights a week? And I said, no, I don't think parents can eat dinner with their kids 5 nights a week. Practice and 2 jobs and what have you, right? Life. But you have to have 5 conversations. You have to have 5 conversations. So maybe it's 2 breakfasts, 2 dinners, and a lunch. And I actually wrote a whole book. We sat down for a year, my wife and I, just like you guys, she's much smarter than me. We sat down and we wrote a book for parents. Because if you told parents have 5 conversations a week, would parents even know what to say? Parents don't even understand the Juul, the Juul, the number 1 selling vaping device in America. They don't understand what Delta 8 and Delta 10 is. They don't understand that hemp was legalized under the Farm Bill. The good Farm Bill that Trump signed, in that Farm Bill was stuck the legalization of hemp. And everybody was like, well, hemp is okay. That's for lotions and rope. No, there's psychoactive molecules in hemp just like cannabis. So we legalized marijuana nationwide, all 50 states, for kids, called Delta 8 and Delta 10. These are molecules in the hemp plant. And unwittingly, Trump signed the legislation legalizing it. And it was all corrupt. And I tried to tell 535 Congress members don't, include that in the bill. Nobody listened. So Republicans and Democrats. So parents need to know what to talk about, and they need to be educated. So we wrote a book called Table Talks and Dashboard Conversations. It's on our website, steeredstraight.org. It's also on Amazon. Table Talks and Dashboard Conversations. It's 2 years of conversations that you can have with your kids, all relevant and current, there's not another book like it in the country.
Wow.
So parents need to have conversations and educate their kids, because the only time in the history of our country that we have ever taken an addictive substance, cigarettes, and reduced its use by drastically using kids to do it was with cigarettes from 1999 to 2015. We went from 34% high school smoking to 7% high school smoking. We did it with education because kids believed the education and they stopped smoking. Well, the tobacco industry, in the middle of that free fall, came up with the vaping device, and they marketed it directly to kids. Big tobacco was done, and the vaping device saved their industry. And now we have 70% of kids vaping in middle schools and high schools.
70%.
Is that starting in middle school?
70%.
In middle school.
Yeah.
That's
Third, fourth
insane.
graders.
There needs to be consequences in school that are heavy. Just like if they found drugs in their locker.
So the question is, is this not
what's going on in school?
This is not labeled a drug, and so therefore, if a teacher finds it, it's like, oh, it's just a vape pen. Is that what the problem?
Well, they might get suspended or in school suspension, but 40% of the vapes that these teachers are finding contain THC marijuana. So now it's not even nicotine, it's weed. The kids vaping marijuana in the classroom. And the industry has made little devices like pens, actual pens that you could write on. And the top of the pen is a heating element, an atomizer, and they have THC in the pen that the kid can write in the classroom. They have vaping book bags and vaping cups and vaping key fobs.
Wow.
You don't even they have vaping watches now, where the cartridge
drugs
could go underneath the face of the digital watch. The kid could have a vape on his wrist, and he could vape in the classroom, unbeknownst to the teacher who's standing 10 feet away from him. So parents need to be educated and then educate their kids. We can reduce this demand, and the only way we do it is with our kids. But they have to understand the truth, and they're being lied to. And this left, the left is the enemy of our country. The left wants to indoctrinate these kids and population control. And I say that, people are like, oh, you're such a conspiracy theorist. Okay, I'm a conspiracy.
Every conspiracy that we've been talking about for the last 2 years has come true.
That's
so
right. I think you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Here's a great call to action just to start with parents. Turn the news off in your house.
Yeah. Disconnect
your TV. I don't care what you got to do, but don't let your kids watch the news and be the only source of news for them. We've got to take another break. When we come back, let's just talk more about that, of what parents can do, how they can get involved, what kind of table talks they need to be having.
That's right.
And hear more about, helping fight this pandemic.
Need you now before we're too far gone. I hope one day they finally see the truth. God, we need you now.
Hey guys, you're back listening to the She's So Right show with myself, Brandy Barclay, Lindsey Graham, and our special guest today, Michael Deleon, a freedom fighter for our kids against this horrific drug problem that for some reason no one's talking about. It's really
There's more important things to talk about. Masks.
Yeah, mask your
and the
kids.
vaccine.
Yeah, it's
the two
amazing.
unhealthy
It's
things.
amazing that these kids with so many masks on their face still can vape somehow.
Yeah.
How's that happening?
Because there's an exception for
Yeah,
that.
how weird. So, Mike, I want to just talk about this again. You know, you wrote a book called Table Talks and Dashboard Conversations. Hey, guys, if you're not having these talks with your kids, I hope this spurred that in you. If you don't know what to say, I hope you buy this book. And I just want to, something that God keeps impressing on me through all different avenues is your children were entrusted to you by God. This is your territory. You know, if you're on your phone all night long and they're in their room doing God knows what with their phone that they probably shouldn't even have at their age because it's like the gateway to all things bad, put your phone down. Stop thinking you're going to go change the world in the White House. Start by changing your house by having these meals. And just like Michael said, if it's not 5 dinners in a row, it's a breakfast, it's a car ride, it's a lunch. It's being intentional with what God has entrusted you to educate yourself about what's under your nose. Do you see how the enemy, the devil, is all after us to distract us from what really matters? And that if we are leaving our kids to the wolves, where we're going to be in 5, 10, 15 years, this is the next generation. And we are literally like throwing them to the lions and none of us are aware. Mm-hmm. It's just devastating. This is a devastating future if we do not take back the reins, take back what's educating our kids, turn off the news, unsubscribe. They live in your house. Yep. Unsubscribe to things that are poisoning their mind and teach them about what could poison their body and become that safe place for them. They don't need it anywhere else. So annoyed. So Michael, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, well, my kids are grown adults now. Praise the Lord in heaven, because I don't even know what kind of psycho I'd be if they were like 8 right now. But, I'm clueless to what's happening. And I know the drug problem is bad, but can you tell me, people would say, oh, it's not just the open border, but how much is it hurting us? How much is it really hurting? Like, what has changed since Trump was in office in the last year?
Okay, well, everything's changed with fentanyl, and it's a paradigm shift. Okay, so addiction has been around. We've had problems, but overdose death has been plummeting. I lost my best friend's daughter. I came home from prison in 2007, right? And I said, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to change the world. I was running the Scared Straight program in prison, and kids were coming into the prison, and you're screaming at them and threatening them. And I'm like, this doesn't work. This negative reinforcement doesn't work. They turned it into a reality TV show. It makes for great reality TV, but it's not reality. You can't scare kids. And then I grew up in the Just Say No era, where Ronnie and Nancy were sitting on the couch saying, Just say no. Just Say No worked for the kids who said no, but the problem was they didn't teach us what to say yes to. So Just Say No doesn't work if you don't give kids the alternative. For instance, I have kids come up to me and like, man, this is how I cope. And if I don't give them an alternative to cope, how am I going to take the vape away? If the kid's on pills or he's smoking weed, how am I going to get him to cope with his anxiety when how he's been coping with his anxiety is with a drug? And I take the drug away, I don't replace it with something. So you just can't say to your kids, just say no. I had a father come to a parent night the other night, and he had his kid with him, and he forced his kid to come. He was in another school district, where they didn't think they needed an education program for their school district. So the father saw it on Facebook and came to see us present, brought his kid. And he looked at me, and his kid's like half crying. He's like, I've grounded my son. I've put him in his room. I've taken his Xbox away, his phone. If I could give him bread and water and a mattress, I would do it. And I looked at him, why? He's like, well, I've caught him with vapes 3 times. And I'm looking at the kid. I said to the father, sir, with all due respect, you're going to find a 4th one. You know that, right? No, I'm not. This is serious. You're going to find a 5th one. Keep taking them away, and you're going to keep finding them. I looked at the kid. I go, are you addicted? Are you addicted? And the kid starts crying. He's bawling his eyes out. He's like 14, a tough little kid, right? And the father starts crying. I said, sir, your son's not defying you. He's addicted to nicotine. He's addicted. how the hell are you supposed to get your kid to stop something he can't stop? I mean, how many people in this country have quit smoking 10 times and they still smoke?
Yeah.
Nicotine is a poison on the brain. Poison. So you got people, it's the number one cause of death in the world, and people still smoke. Why? You seem like an intelligent person. You have college degrees. You're a professional, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever, and you smoke cigarettes. Why? Because they can't stop. They just can't stop. Obesity is the other thing in this country. Oh my God, it's crazy. But here you have kids that are looking at this as coping mechanisms, and they can't stop. Pharmaceutical drugs, psych drugs, antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication on kids is a crisis. Alcohol use was plummeting, and then it started to escalate. But as soon as we legalized marijuana, 2013, Colorado and Washington, adolescent use of marijuana started to skyrocket. Tobacco cigarette use was plummeting, and in 2011, the tobacco industry introduced the electronic device, a Vibe, a Vuse, and then the Juul, and then they changed nicotine into a salt, and now they've assaulted our kids. They're being lied to, and these kids don't think they're doing drugs.
Right.
In Phoenix, there's over 100 billboards in Phoenix, Metro Phoenix, advertising marijuana, celebrating the beautiful dispensaries where you could go in and get marijuana. First of all, it ain't even marijuana. That's a topic for another day. But there's no safety net for children. If you make it normal to do drugs as an adult, you are going to increase the amount of use among kids.
Yeah.
I love when people say, well, we got to decriminalize the drugs and legalize the drugs so we take the black market away. If you decriminalize an addictive substance, not only do you not take the black market away, you explode the black market. There is more black market marijuana than there's ever been in the history of the world because of legalization. Oregon has exploded with addiction. So I know that the only way we're going to prevent this is to prevent it from starting. I have to get to our kids. I have to tell our kids the truth. And so my story is horrendous. A life of addiction, but my addiction and my gang involvement, my criminal activity actually led to the death of my 63-year-old mother. My mother was murdered because of my gang involvement and my crime. And May 14th, 1995, she was 63 years old, my biggest cheerleader in the world. And they murdered her. They came to hit me and they killed her. May 14th, 1995 was Mother's Day morning. So my mother wasn't only murdered, she was murdered on Mother's Day morning.
Wow.
And so I went to prison for 5 years as a result of that case, and I came home, and an emergency room doctor handed me a bottle of 360 80-milligram OxyContin.
Oh, my gosh.
I was in a car accident with 3 cracked cervical vertebrae on my neck, and the emergency room doctor at St. Francis Hospital in Trenton, New Jersey, handed me a bottle of 360 80 oxys. And I went back to prison for 7 more years as a result of widespread doctor shopping and drug use. So when I got back to prison, I was like, man, I have to be the answer. I can no longer, I'm failing God. He gave me a second chance. I didn't know if God was going to give me a third chance. Well, God's given me 6,700 chances. But he said, this is it. He opened up the gates of hell for the last time, and he says, this is it. You know what I want you to do. And I said, yes, I absolutely, Father, know what you want me to do. You've given me a purpose. This is my purpose. Then he gave me, through the Holy Spirit, a passion for my purpose.
So good.
All I care about in this world is kids. God comes first. The redhead comes second. That's the woman I'm married to.
I was going to say, your wife
awesome.
better be a redhead.
Yeah, she is a redhead. And then the children of this country come next. And I'm going to spend every waking moment, every day, the rest of my life, educating kids and telling them the truth. Because, listen, if kids want to grow up to be a Democrat, fine. A Republican, fine. They want to go to vocational school. They want to be a lawyer. They want to be a teacher. They want to be a podcast. So they want to be a musician, a professional athlete, a plumber. Who cares? I just want them to grow up. I want them to grow up.
Yeah.
Now, personally, I want them to know the grace and mercy of God and the salvation of Jesus Christ. That's all that matters. But I need to get them the truth about the things that they're being assaulted with and killed with.
And deceived.
This administration, this border thing, it just breaks my heart breaks my heart. And people think it's an immigration issue. People think it's a humanitarian issue. It's not. It's a poisoning issue. China is importing more meth than they've ever imported, more fentanyl than they've ever imported in the history of our country, and they are annihilating our children. And, you know, a seventh grader, Hartford, Connecticut, overdoses at school. 3 other kids overdosed that day. That kid went to the hospital 3 days later. He died. They went to his house to investigate, and they found 100 bags of fentanyl in this kid's bedroom.
What?
How does he's selling fentanyl bags
gosh.
to other middle school kids? Now there's an investigation of 15 middle school kids in Bridgeport, Hartford, Connecticut. And I can't find it on the news
Yeah,
anywhere.
so these kids are going to be convicted, but the drug runners are running across the border with slaps on their wrists.
Yep.
Can I ask you, Michael, what you would do right now if you had a child addicted to any of these substances? What would be the first thing you would do?
I mean, absolute crisis. It's, you know, you absolutely have to get professionals involved that understand what's happening. The adolescent brain is different than the adult brain. Prevention is the key. So parents everywhere, Table Talks and Dashboard Conversations is a fantastic tool. SteeredStraight.org. I have a plethora of information on there to help parents. Prevention is the key. But if you have a kid, a middle school kid, a high school kid who's addicted to nicotine, it is a very serious matter because 91% of every addict in America began with nicotine, alcohol, and marijuana. So if your kid's smoking weed, it's not the weed Woodstock was used, and it's not the Cheech and Chong weed. This is different. And its inhalation method is different because it's going through an electronic device. So marijuana and THC, okay, which is the psychoactive molecule in the marijuana plant, and nicotine are 2 of the 3 gateway drugs for kids. You've got to do everything in your power to get your kids off of this substance because that's how they're coping. That's how they're fitting in. That's how they're dealing with stress and anxiety. So you have to replace that with something else. And that something else is engagement and connection, connecting with the family. The number one reason kids who never did drugs say they never did drugs is because they didn't want to disappoint their parents. It's the number one reason, parents and guardians. So whether you're a one-parent family, a two-parent family, you're a foster parent, you're guardians, you're raising your nieces and nephews because your child, you know, gone, no matter who you're raising, connection. And that's one of the things that this, this government, these deep state people, that's one of the things they did, shutting these schools. They don't want these kids connected. Sit at home and watch Netflix and veg out. And when you're climbing the wall, your parents will put you on a psych drug and keep you quiet. And then we're going to mask you up when we bring you back to school. Yep. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. And how this country systemically is allowing this to happen. So, I mean, I thank God for girls like you. I'm telling you, voices like you, because you're unafraid, you're unabashed, and you're telling the truth. You're telling the truth. You're saving lives. I mean, I was joking earlier, she's so right. No, you're right. You are right, and you have to share this. So I'm totally unafraid. I got so many haters, man. The marijuana industry hates my guts. The pharmaceutical industry hates my guts.
If evil hates you, good.
Yeah.
Yep.
I say if they ain't talking about you, you're not doing anything
That's
anyway.
Right.
That's right.
But I serve a mighty God, a mighty God who's given me a purpose. And all I want is at the end of time being in front of him and he says to me, well done. It's all I care about. I done so much harm, and my mother was murdered because of me. My wife was pistol whipped because of me. My daughter had a gun held to her head because of drugs. I mean, I destroyed people's lives. I was a pariah of society, and God said, this is your last chance. And I looked to him, I said, I'll never fail you. I'll never fail you again. You give me the platform, you give me the ability to hit these kids, I will hit them with the truth, and I'll never stop. I'll never stop.
Your quote at the end of your email is, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. If you guys want to get in touch with Michael Deleon, go to steeredstraight.org and reach out to him. If you guys want to give him a platform to spread this amazing, incredible, necessary message, please reach out to She's So Right Show. We would love to.
It's our privilege to have you today, Michael. Thank you for everything you're doing. God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
It's Dylan's KC Barbecue at 4 Valley locations. Our sports bar in Arrowhead is packed with TVs for the ultimate sports fan. Our Wildlife World Zoo location will have you on the edge of your seat, dining right next to our 60,000-gallon shark tank. Dylan's Bayou at Pleasant Harbor has never-ending sunsets, beautiful people, and live music every weekend. And our newest location, Western Trails Ranch, is 12 acres of rodeo fun and live outdoor concerts for the entire family. It's Dylan's KC Barbecue, where we're elite, unique, and memorable.